This is 2026, and I call this the Restaurant Operator Playbook. We're going to teach you all kinds of new ideas and let you know everything that's going to help you transform your business in 2026. Time to put your house in order. Let's start with visibility. When I owned restaurants, it was super important to stand out from the competition. I wanted my places to pop. When you were driving down the street, you could see it a mile away. And there's so many things you can do. Walk out the front door of your business and take a fresh look at it and put your guest hat on. What do you see? Does it need a fresh coat of paint? Does it have high visibility? Does it just look like the place that you'd want to go to yourself if you were in a new city? I had a 13-foot bear, a carved grizzly bear on the front lawn of my place. It was called the Great Grizzly Barn Steakhouse. That was one of my concepts. And I had an artist take a giant log and carve this amazing bear. And it had a torch on top that was propane fed. And you could literally see this like a quarter of a mile down the street. And it really drew people in. But not only that, it became a photo op. I can't tell you how many times cars would stop and just stand in front of the bear and take pictures. And most often they would come in and have dinner and have drinks. And it was just what I call a hook. We also lined the building. It was a 6,000 square foot building to start. It expanded 8,000 square feet. And it was really interesting. It was a Swiss chalet architecture. And I had white lights going up and down the perimeter of the building. And again, you could see that all the way down the street. We had a road sign that was super popular because it had changeable letters on it, and people would read the sign and it would drive business. I still am a big classic rock music fan. And we had lots of classic rock references because we had live music in the place, and it just caught people's attention. What can you do to add visibility to your place? Let's talk about management. You've heard me say I really don't like the word. I'm talking about becoming a true leader, someone who recognizes talent, someone who empowers others to reach top performance, and creating other leaders within your organization. I'm going to tell you a story. A long time ago, when my kids were young, I hired a kid who he was a kid at the time, but he literally ran the daycare where my little kids went. He was just this really super person. He was great with the parents. He was great with the kids. And I just happened to say to him one day, are you looking for extra work? Would you like to make some extra money? He's like, sure, I'd be interested. I made him a host. Well, he was a host for all of like a month or two. And then he became the dining room leader. And then he became the general leader. I'm using the word leader, not manager. He ran the entire place, this 8,000 square foot restaurant, for 20 years. And then I sold the business. And then he continued to run it. This guy had made such an impact on a place that I created from scratch. Recognize talent. That's true leadership. Empower them. They don't want to let you down. Allow them to use their good judgment and then incentivize and reward that performance. That's what I call creating entrepreneurs. We all know, some of you are entrepreneurs, most of you, right? You started a business from scratch in the hopes of making a profit. You took a big risk. An entrepreneur is someone who treats your business as if they owned it and had to pay for it. And you can't have too many people like that. So recognize and reward your people. Get creative. We have these recognition programs you see in any business. Employee of the month. That's so old and tired and boring. Get creative. What can you do to create something exciting that's compelling, that really drives morale and increases productivity and performance at your restaurants? But again, the entrepreneur thing is super powerful. Entrepreneurship, incentivize, you build future leaders for your business. That made us super successful. I travel quite a bit and I still see the now hiring signs up in the air on banners, on signs, now hiring, signs in the windows of restaurants, literally any business, really. And I've always believed, there are three types of players in any business. You've got your C players, unfortunately. And if you put now hiring signs up, chances are if you get anyone at all, you're going to get a C player. During the pandemic, lots of people would apply for jobs and just not show up for the interviews because they were being paid to stay home. That was a terrible thing. Those were C players. They don't care about your business. They don't care about hospitality. They're not building morale in your company. What you're looking for are A players, okay? A players are people with great personalities, people that are attentive, they're reliable, they take initiative, they care about hospitality, they care about meeting new people and making friends with your guests every single day, and they have experience. Now, B players have all those attributes, except maybe they don't have that experience. Maybe they never worked in a restaurant. You've heard me say this before, but recruiting is all about going to your A and B players. Every business, every restaurant has at least one or two really, really great people. You wish you had a bazillion more of them, right? Ask them, who do you know who isn't happy in their current job? Who might want to jump over here and work with us because we have a company culture? We recognize and reward people. We give them incentives. We give them new responsibilities if they want it. This is a fun place. Our culture in our restaurants was always hospitality, family, and fun, because hospitality is the foundation of our business. We wanted our team to feel like family. We wanted the guests to feel like family, and we wanted everyone to have fun. Okay, we had family casual restaurants, and that was our culture, and that was really, really powerful. Okay, so look for A and B players only, and then incentivize them. Give them a reward for referring an employee, somebody new. I call them team members, not employees. Okay, if they refer a team member and that lasts at least 60 days, give them an incentive, and cash always works. Okay. I did this as long as I owned restaurants until I didn't need to do it anymore because of that culture, because people made such great money and they had such fun. We had very little turnover. I had a 96% retention rate for that very reason. Okay. And you can do it too. So this is a paradigm shift. Change your approach. Create an amazing culture and then make it fun for people, make it lucrative for people, recognize talent, give them new responsibilities. And I also am quick to point out that sometimes you got a great employee and all they want to do is the job they're in, the position they're in. Maybe you got a great dishwasher and they're really happy doing that. I had a great line cook that was there for like 18 years. He didn't want to do anything but cook amazing steaks and worked the broiler like you wouldn't believe, and everything was perfect to temperature. He never missed a beat. That was amazing. I value people like that. But just know that lots of people are looking to, where can we go from here? What can we learn? What can we do? How can we make more money? How can we make an impact on the place? So you have to give people a voice also. Ask them, what's broken? What can I do to make your job easier, or more fun, or more productive? And they'll sing like canaries. But if you don't ask, you won't get. Okay. And that creates longevity and lowers turnover. Show them that their voice matters, their opinion matters. It worked so well for me. We used to have once a month or so, we'd have a brainstorming session. Maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but I had flip charts and Sharpie markers, and I just asked for new ideas that would improve the business. And no idea was a crazy idea. And I said, listen, if you come up with an idea and put it up on the board, I'm going to look at all these ideas. And if I think I can track an impact to the bottom line where it'll improve our business, I'm going to give you an incentive for as long as it works and as long as you work for me. Like, you just don't see that today. That was out of the box thinking. But you wouldn't believe how many great ideas came out of those sessions. I was the owner, sure. I was the visionary. I was the big picture guy. But I didn't do it all myself. I relied on my team because they were the foundation of my business, and I recognized they were in the trenches every day doing a great job. But if I didn't ask them of anything that they saw that might improve the business, I lost lots of silverware the first year. It ended up in the trash because the busser didn't really care. He's scraping the plates. Oh, there's a fork in the trash. So what? And every one of those forks and knives costs a lot of money. I started to train people to care, and then I incentivized them to improve the business. So think about how you can do that. One thing on the recruiting piece. Maybe you've heard me say this before, but it's really, really powerful. There's a chain of restaurants, okay? 28 locations, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when they needed to hire people, they decided, I'm going to give gift cards to my best guests. And they gave $250 gift cards for any referral of a new person to work in the place. And if that person lasted 60 days, they awarded a gift card. Okay, so it's not $250. It's pennies on the dollar. It's essentially your food cost. So if you got a 30% food cost, literally it's 30% of that gift card amount. And you decide what amount works. But I thought it was a genius idea, and I've seen lots of other restaurants use it, and I recommend it all the time. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about finances. I'm often amazed at how many restaurants I talk to when I travel and I speak at food and restaurant shows, and I ask them, do you take inventory? And they think it's about placing next week's order. Are they tracking their daily break even? Do they know how much it costs them to open the doors every day, whether they serve 5 guests or 500 guests? Are they tracking their cost of goods? Do they know what prime cost is? And these are all things that are just very, very important details, okay? Cash is the lifeblood of your business. And if you don't have a feel for it, if you don't see every penny come in and every penny go out, and you're running by the seat of your pants, you're leaving lots of money on the table. Okay. So let's talk about inventory, the check and balance system. Inventory is calculating the true value of your goods, your food and beverage on hand at any given point in time. It's super, super important. And the most efficient time to take inventory is literally at the end of a busy weekend when your inventory levels are at its absolute lowest. It's a really simple process when you got virtually nothing left on the shelves. If you've got a busy restaurant, that's the time to take inventory. Calculating your cost of goods, it's a formula. It's beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals usage divided by sales. Now I explain all of these things. I've got templates for all these calculations in my Restaurant Academy. I'll tell you more about that later, okay? You also have to track labor costs because labor is the most expensive. It's unbelievable. So it's harder and harder to make money in this business. Margins are shrinking, okay? So you got to track labor. You got to track your cost of goods, okay? And then there's also abuses. I've talked about this before. I noticed one time that when I did the payroll that I had, 60 employees in my biggest restaurant. And I did this in all my restaurants, but I started there when I noticed that so many people were clocking in 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes early from when the schedule said they were supposed to be there. And I watched them and I saw that the first thing they do is they go to the point of sale system and they clock in, of course, they punch in, and then they go grab a soda behind the bar and they chit chat with their friends and they hang up their coats and they go into the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. And I realized this is unproductive time. And if I have 20 or 30 people out of 60 doing this every single day, every single shift, how much is that costing me? So I came up with a system to put a stop to that. The system is in the Academy, of course. Okay. I talk about a sweet spot all the time. You've got a labor cost sweet spot and you've got a food cost sweet spot. And you got to track this every single week. And then when you notice a spike, you got to zero in and figure out where it is and why did it happen. Again, all these systems I'll talk about later. Okay, the biggest needle mover. I talked about shrinking margins. Smithfield Culinary is committed to offering your restaurant the perfect protein for every dish at every day part. They know that to meat lovers, a great serving of their favorite cut is more than just food. It's an experience. Take Smithfield's new ready-to-eat select bacon, where chefs won't leave a mess and your guests won't leave a trace. Or the new ground chorizo that lets you serve up tasty smoky heat. Turn to Smithfield for the broadest portfolio of pork, such as bacon, ham, sausage, and more. When you partner with Smithfield, you serve what you love, and your guests will love what you serve. I taste Smithfield products at many restaurant shows, and they're always delicious. To order or more information, go to smithfieldculinary.com/Smithfield. If you're running a multi-location restaurant or a franchise, you already know the problem. You've got data everywhere, tools everywhere, and still way too many decisions landing on your plate. I like to keep on top of new technology. That's why I've been paying attention to Atlas Nova. Atlas Nova is like having an AICMO and an AICOO built into one platform. It connects your POS and marketing data, tells you exactly what matters, and then actually helps execute campaigns, insights, next best actions, all without adding headcount. Less guessing, less busy work, better results. If you want your business to run smarter, not harder, check out Atlas Nova and get 20% off using the code ROCKSTARS20. That's Rockstars with a capital R. Rockstars20. Before the pandemic, they said you were doing well if a restaurant could wring 10 to 12% net profit. What's that mean? For every dollar of sales, you're literally only making 10 to 12 cents profit. Wow, seriously? Think about it. The margins are even tighter now. Okay, they're saying that the average restaurant is doing 5 to 8% net profit. Some are on the verge of disaster because they don't have these systems in place. They're not tracking these key performance financial indicators. It's so important. Prime cost is so important. What's prime cost? It's an industry benchmark, but so many operators don't track it, don't know what it is. Prime cost is the sum total of your food, your beverage, and your labor cost expressed as a percentage. And they say that to make any money in this business, you should really shoot for about 50 to 55%. What does that mean? That means for every dollar of sales, 50 cents to 55 cents goes to your food cost, your beverage cost, and your labor cost. And what does that leave? That leaves 45 or 50 cents to pay all the other expenses in your restaurant. Think about it. You've got unbelievable expenses. It's a long laundry list. You got repairs and maintenance. You've got licenses. You've got insurance. You got the dumpster in the parking lot. You got landscaping. Some of you have linens, fine linens on the tables. You've got, replacement costs for plates and all this other stuff, smallwares. And it just goes on and on and on. Okay. So you really have to track your prime cost to maximize your profit. The biggest needle mover that I have to talk about is costing out your menu. I ask this question on the road all the time too. When was the last time you costed out your menu? And I get a lot of I don't knows, or yeah, we did it. And then I say, well, what do you do with the data? And they're like, well, we don't. I have my kitchen manager cost out the menu and I just hope for the best. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. Think about it. Every single menu item in every single category has an ingredient, not a labor cost. We're not talking about labor. What is the cost of ingredients for this menu item, that menu item? We're talking about appetizers, entrees, desserts, anything else you sell has a cost to it. Now, if you have a menu item plate cost document or a template, spreadsheet, call it what you will. And all these templates, again, are available. I'll tell you about it later. Everything I'm talking about today is in my academy. But let's go back to the menu item plate cost sheet. It lists every single item that goes into every single dish, okay, every ingredient, and the quantity that goes into every single menu item, and then the cost per that quantity. Now, there's a little math involved here. You got to kind of reverse engineer the bulky item that comes in off the delivery truck and what the yield is, how many units of that piece that comes in the door, whether it's a case or a side of beef or whatever, go into that single dish. It's a little homework, but once you do it, it's there. It's a system. So then it totals. My template totals all the ingredient costs, and then it gives you how much it costs me to serve this dish to the guest, let alone the profit. Because now you also plug in what you charge the customer, the guest, for that item. And then the template does the simple math, okay? It tells you what the plate cost is, it tells you what the profit per dish is, and it also tells you what the food cost on that item is. So then you take that information, and I've got something called the Menu Profit Accelerator, where you plug in your costs, okay, for everything, and then the profit, and then the volume of sales comes from your point of sale system, okay, over a date range, over a period of time, like a year. You plug all this information in, and then you press the go button, and it shows you from the most profitable item in each category to the lowest, and how much money is lost because there's a profit difference in each category. Appetizers, you might be making a $3 profit on this item and a $5 profit on that item, and the $3 profit item might be more popular and a bigger seller than the $5 item. And it shows you, based on your volume of sales, where you're losing money every day. The kicker is on the entrees, because that's where the real spread and the real money is lost. I've seen restaurants losing $10, $12, $13 and more because they're selling more of this item than the items they could be selling, what they want to be selling, those more profitable items. And I've got a whole formula and a whole template on how to reduce that spread, how to stop the bleeding, how to maximize your menu profit and redesign a menu. That is the biggest needle mover today, because you can't control inflation. You can't control the highest wages you've ever had to pay across your restaurant. You can control scheduling and efficiencies, but you can't control the wages that you have to pay to compete with other restaurants and other businesses. But you can control your menu profit, and that'll make all the difference. That'll put a huge impact on your bottom line, okay? So that's a huge deal. All this is turnkey in the Menu Profit Accelerator. Okay, let's talk about portion controls. Oh my gosh, I visit restaurants, I consult with restaurants, and I stand on the line and I watch different team members make the exact same dish with different quantities of those ingredients. And then I go to the kitchen leader and I say, what does the spec call for on this dish? And they say, oh, so much of this or whatever. And I'm like, well, I just watched 3 different people make it 3 different ways. And how much money are you losing every single day times the number of that dish that you sell every single week, every single month, because that person just put 3 extra ounces of cheese on that dish or 5 extra pieces of pepperoni on that dish. You need portion control standards. You need a photograph of every single menu item, what it's supposed to look like, the presentation. not only so that they do it right, but so that the guest gets a consistent dish every time. Okay. Photo, a spec sheet. What does the spec call for? How many of each ingredient? How much quantity of each ingredient? You might have to institute portion cups and have a standardized system, but you also need to watch. You need a check and balance. Have a leader watch the line, and you got to pound it into your people that it has to be consistent every single time. Keep your eyes on the prize, okay? That's really huge. I had servers putting 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream on our brownie sundae because they thought they'd get a bigger tip when the spec called for 1 scoop of ice cream. How many extra scoops of ice cream went out the door before I caught it, and how much did that cost? Think about that happening in your operation, because it does. Okay. I have a pet peeve. I dine out on the road all the time. And we have high standards as operators because we know behind the scenes what it takes to run a great restaurant. But we also have very high expectations when we dine out. I do. And I really believe in service. Unfortunately, this business has become a sense of entitlement for service personnel. They think that they deserve a 20% tip no matter what type of service they deliver. And I see it all the time when I travel. I expect knowledge. I expect menu knowledge, product knowledge, restaurant knowledge. I expect to be entertained because I believe service personnel are actors on stage. The restaurant business, I've said it 1,000 times, is show business, it's entertainment, and I want an experience. I don't want to sit there and have an order taker, what'll you have? Here's the food. Here's the check. Gosh, what an ordinary experience. And it still happens to me every time. It takes training to build what I call sales stars. Okay, we used to train our people every single day. We had daily pre-shifts without fail, and they were strategy sessions. It wasn't about, oh, this is the chef's special tonight, taste it. No, it was a strategy. How do you read your tables? How do you figure out if it's a special occasion? How do you know if the people are in a hurry and they've got a movie to catch? What can you tell them that's going to enhance their experience? What can you recommend that will give them a better guest experience, taking people on the magical journey of everything the restaurant was about? And what did that do? That built relationships between my service team and my guests. And it built amazing loyalty and repeat business because it was an experience. It wasn't just a meal out, okay? We did role-playing exercises where I would randomly call on a busser and say, okay, you're the server and you're the guest, and I want you to bring something to life and sell me something and make me want it. And that was a skill set. We trained this all the time, and we watched our sales double and triple. And I ultimately created a staff training system I called Sales Stars. And Sales Stars taught the basics of hospitality, but it taught everyone in the front of house, the bussers, the hosts that answered the phone, the servers, the bartenders. It trained everyone in product knowledge and restaurant knowledge. What are our hooks? What sets us apart from the competition? What's special about this? And what can you recommend that's going to enhance a guest experience and increase the check average? And that's why we increased our sales double and triple year on year. Sales Stars, super powerful. And again, that's in the academy too. You got to train your people to educate, inform, and entertain, and that is a competitive advantage. Okay, choices and benefits. It was such a simple concept in Sales Stars. One of the biggest things was giving choices and benefits for anything, for an appetizer, for a dessert. Let's use a dessert, for example. I often use simple mathematics to just explain why something works. Imagine there are 3 choices. Maybe there's choice A is an amazing dessert, and choice B is another amazing dessert, and choice C is no. Now, we always had funky names for all of our menu items because it created attention to those items. They were super profitable to sell, and it attracted the guests' attention where they sold themselves. But imagine if someone makes a recommendation with a crazy name and they bring it to life so you can literally visualize it and taste it and smell it and see it before it even gets delivered. You say, yeah, I want that. So now you got 3 choices. You got choice A and choice B, and brought to life, right? And oh my God, I can't choose. Do I want A or do I want B? Well, if each of those 3 choices has an equal likelihood that the guest will say A, B, or C, 33.33% chance, all 3 of those add up to 100%, then suddenly giving 2 choices and bringing them to life just doubled your odds of making the sale because now it's a 66.6% chance of making the sale versus 33.3 for the no answer. See how that works? An order taker asks yes, no questions. Does anybody want dessert? Can I bring you anything else? And they have a 50-50 chance of making the sale. And more than likely, they're going to hear, check, please. because the odds are not in their favor. So you got to double your odds of making the sale. That's really, really powerful stuff. Okay. I learned a long time ago that internal marketing was the most effective and most cost effective. Know that it's so much easier to market to your existing guests, the people that are already raving fans for your business, than to constantly look for new customers. Yes, it's great to bring in new guests all the time, but you really want to build loyalty, because there's something called the lifetime value of a guest. Because if you create a raving fan for your business and they come in several times a month and that's their place, and you build what I call affinity with them, and they're like, oh my God, that's where we go, and we tell all our friends and we take photos and we share it on social media. That is such powerful marketing. That's internal marketing. Besides that, what else can you do in your place that's highly visible to attract attention? I love those restaurants. We had them that had these giant chalkboards that brought what we called our hooks, all the things we wanted to sell, all the things that made us unique and special and different and stood apart from the competition. We wanted to market those wherever people saw, in the bathrooms, on the giant chalkboards. Every restaurant, yours included, probably has a pretty talented artist, and they can draw really cool pictures that draw attention to what your hooks are. And we had them all over our places, these giant chalkboards. So that's a way to market. That's internal marketing. What can you do inside the walls of your business to attract attention, to drive business to what you want to sell? Table tents. Not every restaurant does this. Yeah, if you got a white tablecloth, fine dining, tuxedo waiter kind of place, you're not going to have table tents. But if you have a family casual place, they've got lots of time sitting at that table and things catch their attention. And if you have a graphic artist that creates amazing artwork and you bring your hooks to life, you spend lots of money with your suppliers. They have graphic arts departments. They'll do this for you for free if you ask them to. I got all this stuff for free forever. And we always had our hooks displayed on the tables, okay? So market to your current guests, make them raving fans. And then lastly, your team. Okay, they are brand ambassadors for your business. If you hire A and B players, and if these people have great personalities, and if you train them, like I said, to be actors on stage where they entertain, educate, and inform your people, they create loyalty, where suddenly your guests come in and say, oh, is Sally working tonight? Oh, where's Jim? He's awesome. And then they develop a following, and that's a competitive advantage. That's really, really powerful. Another really powerful form of marketing was strategic alliances. You've probably heard me talk about this as well, but I identified whenever I opened a new restaurant, I opened several new restaurants, but whenever I wanted to open a new place and seed the market and get immediate traffic, I used to drive around the area of the local community where the restaurant was, and I identified high traffic other businesses, not restaurants. Was it a dry cleaner? Was it a movie theater? Was it some kind of a retail store? Was it a car wash? It could be any of those. And I'd sit in the parking lot and I'd count the cars, and I'd watch their customers, their guests, if you will, walking in and out. And if I found a really high traffic that had constant business, I'm like, wow, that's a successful business. I approached the manager or the owner of the business, introduced myself, and I said, hey, I'm Roger, and I'm opening this new restaurant, and I'd love to give your guests, customers, whatever they called them, something absolutely free of value just for trying my new place. Okay. And they were usually cash cows, those things that cost me very little to serve the guests, but they had very high perceived value. It cost me virtually nothing. I could afford to give them away. Again, lots of examples of these are in the academy, but I printed these 4-color business cards and I passed them out. If the owner or the general leader, if you will, said, yeah, we'll do that, absolutely free. I had these really catchy business cards, full color, with a photograph of what that cash cow was, with crazy copy, fantastic, amazing, stupendous, ta-da, it's worth so much money, $10 value. Come on in and get it for free. And yes, they had to buy something. They had to buy a drink. They had to have dinner, drinks and an appetizer. But you know what was really amazing? The cost of those cash cows were less than $1 for me. And the average check, we tracked those coupons when they came back, but for less than the cost of $1, the average check was $85. Some of them were $150, but we tracked them. And the best part, what was in it for the strategic business that sent us the traffic? I gave them trade. I said, listen, if you pass these coupons out, I'm going to track them. And if you stamp the back with your identification, I'm going to give you 10% back in trade at the restaurant. I'm going to load a gift card, and you can come in with your spouse, your partner, give it to an employee for an incentive, whatever, but they can come in and just use the gift card and sign the check and no cash involved. And they loved that. Some of these businesses drove $15,000 in new business in the door in a couple of months each. Now, not everyone is going to work out, and that's why you need multiple alliances, but I probably picked 5 or 6, and there were 3 or 4 super top performers that each of them drove like $15,000. And I'm like, wow, this works. That is an example of trackable marketing. Okay. Amazing stuff. What else can you do? I'm a big believer in building a brand. So in 2026, think about, do I have a solid brand right now? And if I do, am I selling retail merchandise? Because people love my brand and it's an impulse item. And if I merchandise it well, you know that you can't walk through a theme park like Disney World or any of those places without going through 20 different retail outlets. You walk into the park and there it is. You walk out of the park and there it is. All over the park, there are these retail outlets selling stuff, and it's impulse items. You wouldn't believe how much t-shirts and hats, and when people are on vacation or they have a gift to buy, or if they love your place, they're paying you to advertise your business. So start a retail program, build a brand. Okay. Don't just be ABC Restaurant. Create some special hooks and really turn your place into a brand, and track the marketing. No matter what you do, you want trackable marketing where for every dollar you spend, you know there's a 5x, a 10x return on that. Okay, so merchandising is one thing. The Mug Club is another huge needle mover. Again, if you serve draft beer, if you have a coffee shop, you can create a Mug Club where people will pay you a membership to have a more exclusive mug versus the standard pint glass of beer, or a special coffee mug that is their special mug. And you can get it sponsored. And the sponsors will pay for the mugs, and they'll pay for the special t-shirts that people get as value added. And that is a huge brand builder, because if you merchandise it well, if you hang a giant rack with all these mugs and people walk in and say, oh, tell me about that, it's a hook, they sign up and then they tell their friends to join. Okay. So here's the example. I've talked about this ad infinitum because I'm really proud of this. Now, I talked about creating entrepreneurs and empowering people. I had a bar leader, and he was a really personable guy, and he made lots of friends and just loved being a bar guy, and he did that forever. He's probably still doing it now. He's moved into leadership, and he was a leader in my place, of course. And I just said one day, a long time ago, I empowered him. I'm like, I want to start a mug club. Go do it. I didn't tell him how to do it. I just said, astonish me. Go start a mug club. And I didn't invent the idea. You've seen these things in sports bars everywhere. You see the mugs hanging. Well, he started the mug club, and it ultimately grew to over 1,000 mugs that he sold. And I gave him a $5 incentive for every mug he sold. And then he got that $5 on the annual renewals, even though he didn't have to resell them, because people just re-upped every single year on their own. And every year he made over $5,000. I mean, the club, I think, grew to 1,200 mugs, so he made $5 on every one of those. The membership fee started at $55. And then when I sold it, it was like $60. So every one of those 1,200 people paid us $60 a year just to belong to the club. And we gave them special perks and VIP service. And my bartenders got to know them by name. But they were brand ambassadors, and they drove so much business. And you might think $60,000 or $70,000 is a lot of extra cash flow, especially when there was no cost to it, because again, it was sponsored. 60 grand came in the door every year, free and clear, plus. Yeah, that was huge. What could you do with an extra $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, depending on how big you build your club? But the hook was, the catch was, the kicker was, it wasn't just the $60,000 or $70,000. It was people that used to come into the restaurant maybe 2, maybe 3 times a month are now in the place 3 and 4 days a week. It's their clubhouse. And then they invited their friends to join, and the spending went through the roof, of course. And then we had prizes, and we had photo contests with the retail merchandise I talked about. We had a photo contest. Take a photo, an interesting photo somewhere in the world wearing our t-shirt, and we'll award you a great prize. Where did the prizes come from? My suppliers. I spent a gazillion dollars a year with my loyal suppliers, and every year I asked them for valuable merchandise, valuable prizes that I could give away to my Mug Club members, that I can incentivize my team. Okay, you do a fantastic job. It's like, I'm going to give you a prize just randomly. Hey, we have this prize closet. Walk in the door, pick something out, take it home. It's yours. And that created loyalty and longevity and lowered turnover. You don't ask, you don't get. So have a photo contest, build a mug club, bring in cash flow. These are the needle movers that will fight inflation and high labor costs. That is really, really popular and really, really powerful. Mug clubs, if you serve draft beer coffee, you got to do it, okay? I've got a complete course in the academy on how to start a mug club. Soup to nuts, we teach you how to do it. If you have a family casual place, are you kid friendly? Do you try to attract the kids? Learned a long time ago, the kids often decide where the family goes out to eat, okay? And they want to go to the fun place. So we did as much as we could to make it fun for kids. We had a stage that we had live entertainment. And on a Sunday, when we didn't have live entertainment, we actually created this kids camp with all these kids activities like cornhole and do this and this craft and that thing and whatever. We had an arcade. And not everyone can have the room for an arcade. But if you've got one single little area, maybe, 4 by 4 feet wide, you can put in these crane games, with the stuffed animals inside. And you wouldn't believe how much money gets put into those things. Not everybody knows that all this is free. You don't have to pay a dime for an arcade. Pool tables, pinball machines, Pac-Man. The vintage games are huge today. The crane games. There is a game and music company in every single state that will bring these things into your place, no charge. All you got to do is give them the real estate, whether it's 4 square feet or it's the whole arcade, however much room you have. They'll bring in a change machine. They'll come in once a week. They'll cash it out and they'll give you 50% of whatever it takes in. And that's thousands of dollars a month in some cases, depending on how big your arcade is or how much room you give them. And it's kid friendly. We had a diorama, which was a photo op based on your brand, based on your hook. What's unique, special, or different about your place? Maybe it's your logo. Maybe it's your brand. Maybe it's something special. Now, I had a Swiss Alpine theme for my biggest restaurant. So we had the Matterhorn Mountain, and a diorama has those, face cutouts where people stick their face in there and it's a photo op and there's a painting on the board, so they brought this Matterhorn to life. Well, one of the face cutouts was a skier skiing down the Matterhorn. And the other face was a mountain climber climbing up the side of the Matterhorn. Do you know how popular that was? That was viral marketing. Every single guest that came in the place had to stick their head in there and take a photo and share it on social media. It was fun. It was free. And it drove traffic and it created loyalty. So that was fun for the kids too. We had a little step stool so that the kids could stick their faces in there. We had real draft root beer in the mugs. We had little kids mug club as well. And boy, was that profitable. Real draft root beer for kids. And that was really amazing. Helium balloons. We used to give out free helium. We had a helium tank behind the host counter. And we have all these helium balloons with our logo on the balloons. And every kid that walked out of the place got a helium balloon. We had a prize chest. It looked like a pirate's treasure chest. And the host or the server would take it to the tables at the end of the meal. And the kid could stick his hand in there and take out a inexpensive little toy prize. Fun stuff. There was a fish bowl with those dum-dum lollipops. It's like we became the place that every kid wanted to go. What can you do to be kid friendly? Let's talk about efficiencies. We talked about profitability, but you know that there's a lot of waste and spoilage and lost opportunity in restaurants. Let's talk about staggering clock-ins. I talked about efficient scheduling earlier. Are you scheduling as efficiently as you can be? It's a Saturday night and you might need 3 hosts at the front counter greeting guests. But if you don't get busy till 7 o'clock, you really only need 1 host. This is common sense, but you might open your doors at 4 o'clock, 4:30. And you stagger people coming in. And then you rotate the cleanup so that not everybody is there cleaning at the end of the shift. This week it's this 2 people, next week it's that 2 people, or on a daily basis. It's all about efficient labor and efficient scheduling, okay? We talked about the early punch-ins. I put a stop to that, okay? That was huge. Forgotten clockouts. Do you know that if you forget to clock out, that the point of sale system will pay your people extra hours that they're not even there? You got to watch this stuff. What about bottle return? Okay, you get a 5-cent deposit in most states. Every time you buy a bottle from your beverage suppliers, any kind of bottle at all, you can return it. There are companies that'll actually come to your place and pick up your bottles and give you the cash. But don't lose out on that as well. Okay? Keep an eye on your petty cash. Regularly track it. If you've got a par of $100 or $500, every single week, make sure that it's spot on. Anyone that has access to your cash or your safe, you got to track that too. Draft beer. If you sell draft beer, we just talked about the Mug Club. Do you know that suppliers will come in and try to clean your lines often because they just pour beer through your lines to clean it out? And that way you go through your beer quicker and you have to buy more beer. Equipment maintenance. Okay, vacuuming out all your refrigeration equipment, making sure all the flames in your burners are blue flames, not orange, where you're leaking propane or oil. You get the idea. That's really important. Okay, stay on top of your equipment. Have a duty roster. This is the 2026 playbook. It's all about playing your best game, but you got to know what your competition is up to also. I would routinely shop my competition and I would look at their service, their pricing, their hooks. What are they doing that's cool? What are they doing that works for them? What's the traffic levels on a given day in this business? And we'd monitor it all the time and we'd learn from the competition. We'd play our best game, but we'd stay on top of them. Okay, what are their hooks? What's their traffic? All these things. What's their pricing? All right. What are they doing right that you can do in your business? This was, again, all about working on your business, not in it. Take a day every single week to just put a system in place that improves the efficiency or the profitability of your business. Everything I'm talking about is about empowering your team. And now with the Restaurant Academy, the best part is you can assign any lesson to any number of team members to put any of the things I talked about in place. We have all the templates, the video tutorials. You can teach them how to run your business. They'll learn your business, how to run it. You give them a new assignment, and then you incentivize them for the results. And the best part is you can track their progress. We have leadership. We have cost controls and maximizing profit. We have proven marketing ideas for return on investment. All these things, everything I talked about is in the Restaurant Academy. So build your dream team. That's the 2026 playbook. All the best in the new year. Thanks to our sponsors this week. Thanks for tuning in. Can't wait to see you in the next episode. Build your business. Thank you. Listen, what would it feel like to lower your operating costs, double your sales, lower staff turnover, create raving fans, and design a menu that literally prints money? Our online restaurant training system will teach you and your staff to rock your restaurant and transform your business. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to get started. You've got this.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.